Hola estudiantes, this video is going to talk about how to conjugate ER and IR verbs. This video should be watched after the conjugating AR verbs video, so please make sure that you've already watched that before you watch this video. Alright, so let's talk about one thing real quick that we should have already discussed when you watched the last video, and that is that when you conjugate an AR verb, you follow the steps of getting rid of the ending and adding o, as, a, amos, ais, an. Okay, you're going to need to know this for ER verbs because it's very similar in the way that we conjugate. In fact, the steps to conjugation are the same, okay? So step one is still going to be to get rid of the ending. And this is for AR, ER, and IR verbs. So just like before when I got rid of the AR, if it's an ER verb, I'm going to get rid of the ER. So for comer, I'm going to just get rid of that ER ending. I don't need that anymore. Okay, same thing for beber. This is also an ER verb, so I'm going to get rid of the ER. If the verb is an IR verb, like escribir, I'm going to get rid of the IR. And I'm going to be left with the stem or the root, which is here the first three letters, and here I have escrib instead of the whole thing escribir. Now, step two, again, is going to be the same. I'm going to add a new ending, but it's not going to be the exact same as o, as, a, amos, ais, an. It's different for ER verbs and IR verbs. So let's talk about first how we conjugate ER verbs. Okay, so before I had o, as, a, amos, ais, an, and that's for AR verbs. To get from conjugating an AR verb to an ER verb is very simple. All I need to do is change the O's, or I'm going to change the A's to E's, okay? So when I'm conjugating an ER verb, I'm going to still get rid of the ending, and instead of O, as, a, I'm going to have O. My to-form ending is going to be ace. My la usted ending is going to be A. Instead of a, it's A. The nosotros ending is going to be amos. Again, I'm just replacing the A with an E. Okay, the vosotros ending, instead of ice, is going to be ace, E with an accent, is. And the ellos, ellas, ustedes ending is going to be N instead of an. Okay, so let's try an example of a verb that would use o, ace, a, amos, ace, n. We're going to conjugate the verb beber. Okay, so step one, what I want to do here is I want to get rid of my ER ending, and I would probably just make it easy on myself and go ahead and have my BEBs ready, because I know that's the stem of the verb, and I'm going to keep that. One thing that you do need to make sure that you're doing when you conjugate any verb is to think, is it an AR verb, an ER verb, or an IR verb, so that you're applying the correct ending. Okay, so the yo ending I just learned is o, so my yo form is bebo, for I drink. The to form I just learned is ace, so my to form is bebes, es. My la usted form is going to be bebe, for he or she drinks. My nosotros form is emos, amos. So for we drink, it would be bebemos. You could say bebemos un refresco en el almuerzo. The vosotros form, instead of ice, is going to be ace, E with an accent, is. And the ellos, ellas, ustedes is N. So I'm going to have beben. So bebo, bebes, bebe, bebemos, bebes, beben. And that's how I conjugate an ER verb. This is just an example of one. Alright, so let's talk about now how do I get from an ER verb to an IR verb. Well, it was very simple to get from AR to ER. All I had to do was change my A's to E's, okay? With IR verbs, it's even easier because I don't even have to do that much work. For an IR verb, most of my forms are going to be exactly the same as ER verbs. In fact, 4 of the 5 are going to be the exact same. All of these forms right here are going to be the same as ER verbs. So I can just go ahead and copy the yo, the tu, the ella, usted, and the ellos, ellas, ustedes forms. O, ace, a, and n. The nosotros and vosotros are going to be the only ones that are different. And probably as you thought, I'm going to replace my e with an I. So instead of amos, I have imos. Now the vosotros is a little bit different. It's is, I with an accent S. So whereas in my AR and ER forms I had 3 letters, in my vosotros form for IR verbs I only have 2. So my endings for IR verbs are o, ace, a, imos, is, n. All right? One easy thing about vosotros, a lot of people forget about where to put the accent mark. The accent mark goes over whatever type of verb it is. So if it's an AR verb, it's on the A. If it's an ER verb, it's on the E. And if it's an IR verb, obviously it will be on the I. Okay, so let's try conjugating an IR verb then. Here's my verb, escribir. So step 1 is to get rid of my ending, and since it's an IR verb, I'm going to get rid of the IR. I'm going to be left with my stem, escrib, and my yo form, I know I just found out, is going to have an O ending. In fact, they all do in the yo form, so escribo. The tu form, I'm going to have escrib for all of them, and I'm going to have escribes. That's you write. For el, ella, usted, again, I'm going to keep my escrib, and my ending is going to be I, escribe. The nosotros, I want to make sure I'm remembering that this is an IR verb. I'm going to keep my escrib, but for an IR verb, it's imos, I-M-O-S. Sorry, I'm running out of space. So escribimos. For the vosotros, is is my new ending. So it's escribís with an accent on the I, the second I. And for the ellos, ellas, ustedes, again, I'm back to it being like an ER verb. And so that's escriben. Okay, so those are my endings for ER and IR verbs, and hopefully you'll feel pretty good about conjugating those 2 types of verbs. What I'd like you to do once you finish watching this video is to try conjugating these 2 verbs in your notes. So the verb leer, and the verb subir, okay, which is not a word that you need to know. It means to climb, but we don't have a lot of IR verbs. So leer and subir, I want to have a chart for each of those in your notes, which I will check at the beginning of our next class. So if you could have that ready, please, that would be wonderful. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. Adios, hasta luego.